Welcome to the Baffled podcast by Ridgeline Suppressors, where we hope to be able to get into discussing everything we've got on our minds, things that are going on in current events, and let you draw your own conclusions.
We'll definitely discuss the firearm industry a little bit.
I'm probably going to get into a little bit of farming and agriculture.
I mean, you can't talk about anything without talking about politics at some level, right?
Yeah, and then probably some education, some economics.
Yeah, so basically all the things.
Everything we have on our minds. I'm Megan Roybal.
And I'm Matt Roybal. We're the owners of Ridgeline Manufacturing and Ridgeline Suppressors. We're parents to 6 kids. We do everything from farming to hunting to fishing, and obviously we're business owners and entrepreneurs.
All right, that being said, let's get into it.
We're going to be talking about the Ridgeline origin story, how Ridgeline came to be, and how kind of some of the things that happened during that whole process. And so before we get into that, we're going to do today's Baffled challenge will be, what item would you not leave the house with?
I would not leave, even without, what would I not leave the house without? I would not leave the house with that. I would not leave the house without my water bottle and my shake cup and probably an energy drink.
All right.
But that's all one item. I'm not leaving without like a significant.
It was supposed to be only one item.
It's all one. It's all fluid. It's
three.
Hydration. I'm not leaving the house without significant hydration.
Okay. And a case of water in the back of your car.
That too, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
What are you not leaving without?
I would not leave without my Leatherman.
I could have, yep.
All right.
Yeah, I could have called that one. How many Leathermans have you run through this year?
Probably just like 3.
I think you're on your 4th.
But I do need to sharpen mine. I was trying to cut some twine yesterday with it, and it was like I was using the wrong side of the knife. But it was actually the right side of the knife. So it is getting pretty rough.
It's a well-loved tool. Definitely. For sure.
Well, it does everything from cut to scrape to deburr metal parts. So it's well used.
Just as a side note, we are not sponsored by Leatherman, but by all means, if you'd like to, give us a call.
Yeah. So today we'll get into kind of how we started Ridgeline and kind of some of what that journey was like and where we are today and what that means for the suppressors and all that kind of stuff. So I'll let Megan kind of introduce the timeline of where we were at.
All right, so this all came about in 2018. That's the official start date of Ridgeline Manufacturing. And we've been married for a little under 10 years. We met in college. At that point in time, we had 4 kids, 5 and under. And Matt was working in the defense industry. And we were on a date. And I remember asking him, so if someone just handed you $1 million, what would you do with it? And his response was, I would start a company, specifically a manufacturing business. And that kind of sat for a little while, and then...
Yeah, and then some things happened, like at work, that there was kind of some writing on the wall that there was going to be some corporate changes happening. That I was never a huge fan of the corporate world and how all of that works. And I think I'm an innovator at heart, and I feel like engineering starts with creativity. And in the corporate world that I was working in, that wasn't really, I guess that wasn't their main focus. And rightly so, I understand all of that, especially having been a business owner now, but feeling like I could do something more with the on the technical side is really what I was looking for. And I saw huge challenges and huge gaps in the manufacturing side of things, which led us to have more discussions about starting Ridgeline.
Yeah.
And so like Megan was saying, we had 4 kids. So real quick, a little bit about that. So at the time we had 4, now we have 6. And we actually went from we were young. We had just graduated. We'd moved to Columbus, Indiana, where I was working for Cummins as a performance engineer for them. which was an awesome job, by the way. Very cool working with diesel engines and writing tunes and all that kind of thing. But I grew up in northern New Mexico, up in the mountains, and the flat Midwest Indiana plains and thunderstorms were just not my thing.
And flooding and tornadoes and grass that had to be mowed. None of those were his thing.
This is true. When you have to mow 5 acres twice a week, and you grew up in the high desert where like you might mow your lawn once a summer if you watered it. So that's and I grew up in a small town where it was more ranching and farming, so it's not like we had manicured lawns anyway. So just caveat that. But anyway, we started out there and we ended up with going scenario where we went from no children straight out of college to having 3 children in the span of about 3 months. And so we went from 0 to 3 pretty much instantly, and that kind of kick-started our family life. And that drove us to come back to New Mexico, where I started working in the local industry, which is typically defense and aerospace. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're at. We started our family quickly. We came back to New Mexico. We have a lot of family support here, specifically my mom and her husband that were helping me navigate being a new mom to 3 kids, 2 and under, and came back. We're working here, and
so this was all about 2 years. So
that's 2016, 2 years
this
before.
was 2016, yeah, and so we'd started working. No, it was 2014 when we moved back.
Oh, was it really? Yeah. No, you're right.
And then so we were back for about 4 years before we started Ridgeline in New Mexico.
Had another baby in there.
And yeah, so then we had another baby, all girls, so 4 girls so far. And we decided, again, Megan has been a huge support to all of this. And we decided to kind of jump off the deep end of entrepreneurship and business and just go for it. And there was huge challenges, but I think that is the American dream, is not chasing after stuff, but building something that you can look back on and say, yeah, that was cool. And so that's what we're doing with Ridgeline. Yeah, but any input on that?
Yeah, don't cry. Getting a little emotional about the American dream there. It's all right.
It is.
It is our dream. It is our dream. So when he says that we made sacrifices, like we sold our house. We bought our first beautiful home. It was our second home, but the first one that was really just like what we wanted. It was beautiful, and we sold it. We moved in with family. We got a very generous loan from another family member who came on as a silent partner in our business and believed in us, believed in Matt, believed in the dream. We both went to work full time in our business to make it work, and I'm going to say we've been very blessed. We wanted to start a company. We had a dream, and things really just worked out, right? We worked hard. I'm not saying we didn't work hard. I'm saying that
things
fell
worked
into
out
place
because we worked hard. And I think that there's a lot of truth to the saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think that there's been great blessings in what we've done, and we are very faith-oriented family and very faith-oriented people. And a big part of why we wanted to start Ridgeline and we wanted to start our own thing is because we wanted to contribute to business and contribute to the world and to families with that core value of system, that family, faith, and honesty driven system, where we're really looking at how can we make things that are better? How can we design things? How can we provide services that are based around those core values? And in a lot of corporate worlds, all of you guys that are out there that work in a corporate world, that first week of onboarding, when they bring you, they all tell you about their corporate values. And there's nothing wrong with any of those. But in the world that we live in today, they were just, I never could relate very well to those values. And so we wanted to start a company that was kind of based around those core values, around who we are and around what we wanted to influence and what America is, really, honestly. Like, it's, I guess it's kind of cliche to say that, but manufacturing is what built America, in my opinion. And we, having been in the industry and seen how we've lost a lot of that technology with the offshoring of it, and over the last 40 years, we've been offshoring, and eventually you lose that technology. I mean, there was a time when high school kids and college kids knew what a mill was. They knew what a Bridgeport was. They've seen it. And in the world we live in today, you don't have that. You have...
Which is not just a loss of technology, but a loss of skill, which I think is even more important than technology in a lot of aspects.
Well, technology and skill set, yeah, for sure. I mean, the how to do this, right? And it's not taught. I have a mechanical engineering degree. That's what I spent my engineering career doing. And they teach us how to do machine component design. They teach us how to do analysis, all of these things, but they don't necessarily really get into the I guess the fine details, the devil's in the details of how components are actually made and how to run a CNC machine and tool lengths and all of the fine details of machining and how that has to be. And in my opinion, to be a good designer, you have to understand intimately that process of how whatever the component you're designing is going to be manufactured. And in our world today, it's we design it, we ship it overseas, and we let them figure out how to make it, and there's this back and forth, right? And so we were very passionate about bringing that technology, bringing that education system back. We've got, and not only for our children, but we are involved now with universities, we're involved with groups that are bringing that skill set, and it really is a workforce development.
It is, and more than that, it's, I think for me, we're bringing not just the workforce here and the technology here. We want to help bring the education back, but we also need to bring back that self-sufficiency of the economy. We need to be able to have the jobs here. We need to be able to have the money. Honestly, needs to stay in America. We need to be able to buy here. We need to be able to produce here. And that's an important and really necessary thing. I mean, and we're seeing it now in this economy. This is something that we've had a dream of for almost 10 years, and it's really coming to fruition in this economy where we're seeing a movement towards wanting local onshoring, and we're excited about that shift. That shift's important to us, and it's expensive, and it's difficult. And that's something we're going to get into in later podcasts is where kind of the hangups are, and when you get into the nitty gritty details of making that transition of bringing manufacturing back to the States and changing how the way things are done a little bit. But so I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. In this dream of wanting to bring things back to the U.S., there was kind of another dream evolving, which is where the Suppressors started. And that was, I'm just going to tell you my side of the story really quick. I believe, pregnant at the time. I think I was pregnant. I mean, I'm obviously always pregnant. So, I was pregnant at the time, and I had already gone to bed, and Matt came home, walked into the room, and he's holding like this metal canister. And he's like, look, I made a suppressor today. And I mean, we've hunted together as a family. There's things I've never shot a suppressor at this point. I mean, like in my head, this is still like a James Bond thing. Like, what is the point of shooting suppressors? That's my experience with suppressors here. And I was like, great, cool. Good for you, honey. and then it was like a week later, and he brought home 2 more versions. And he's testing these things, and sometimes he's coming in from, we have a little shooting lane in our yard at our farm, and he's coming in from our little shooting lane, and it's like blown to pieces. And I'm starting to feel like
You're not supposed to tell them about all the blown up ones.
No, I think failure is a really important part of innovation.
It
I think
absolutely is.
If you don't fail, you don't
often
improve.
and early.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to that model, and that's a big part of why we started Ridgeline, because I have my office literally 10 feet from our manufacturing floor, and I can program and design. I can walk out there and we can build it and we can test it. And that gives a huge advantage in innovation, because you're able to, again, fail often, fail early.
Yeah. And I mean, that timeline realistically is less than 12 hours a lot of the time. Like no, because the printing takes a little longer than that. So in a week, less than a week, 5 days, we can concept, print, test, improve. And I mean, that's huge. And that cuts expenditures down significantly. I'm speaking from a business standpoint a lot. I understand that because that's what I do in this business is I run our accounting side and I handle a lot of that. And so I am seeing that as a huge cost benefit for us, is to be right here, to do it all in-house. We're not sending this out. We're not having to hire external engineering, which is, again, something we have done for other companies, is that we do some contract engineering work in that. What is the acronym for that? We're like, you're designing it specifically for optimizing it for manufacturing. There's an acronym.
DFM, Design for Manufacturability.
Okay. So we do that a lot. Firstly, that's his job for other companies, but they pay us for that. That's an expenditure that then has to be translated into their product price. And Matt is very smart, and nobody tell him I said that, because somebody's got to keep him in check. But he's able to do that, and that has then developed an entire product line with multiple products available that is Ridgeline Suppressors, that is always improving and changing. And anyway, yeah, you can keep going.
Yeah, so the goal behind any product development is it's always a very holistic approach, and we use this throughout our life. We use this with the farming that we do. We use this with raising our children, and it works really well applying it in manufacturing and engineering as well. And you have to look at everything from the start to the end and how the whole ecosystem works together. And that's just going to give you a better product. It's going to give you a higher performing product at a better price, delivered faster. And that's what we're able to do with the ecosystem that we built, that is Ridgeline Suppressors. So with the additive capabilities that we have, which is laser powder bed fusion, that's the technology that we use to build our suppressors, as well as the traditional subtractive CNC machining that we do, we're able to take all of that together and create a product. And like Megan was saying, in 24 hours, like I would print. I did all the analysis, and I'm not a believer in analysis paralysis. So like I did some analysis. We did a lot, as much as I could digitally. Then we'd print something. We'd go out, we'd shoot it, we'd test it, and be like, okay, we need to tweak this, and then we'd do the same thing back and forth. But literally in a 24-hour time cycle. And so that 24-hour time cycle that it takes us to do that, you're talking 6 weeks for a typical corporate model, where you're sending stuff out to suppliers to get quotes. It's going through buyers, and then it's got to come back to you, and then you've got all this inspection and everything that has to do. And that was a big part of, again, why we started Ridgeline and why we built this ecosystem that has engineering, manufacturing, quality, all of it built into this system, because we can innovate much faster. What really inspired me is, and I'm not unique in this, but like the stories that come from World War II, the stories that come from the space race in the 60s. What America was able to achieve was it was phenomenal, right? Mm. And we were able to do that because we have the resources. We still have those resources in our ground. We still have all the metals and the mining and the stuff that we need But we also had the factories and we had the people who were able to build that stuff. And that's what made us successful. And that's what we're trying to do with Ridgeline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of what we hope to see in the future for Ridgeline is that not just that we grow as a company, but that we can influence and inspire other companies, young entrepreneurs, to take that leap and to build a better business and to find better business practices and to not get stuck in that corporate model. There's, I would say, we'll see if we're on the same page with this. I think that there were 3 things that I saw when you were working for corporations that you just absolutely could not stand. And it is something that it was just like, those were the 3 things. The first one was meetings. That he's spending a lot of time in meetings where you felt like there was a lot of discussion but no implementation, or again, that analysis paralysis where things couldn't move forward because someone key was missing or something had to go to a next step, which then brought us to the second thing, was that when there was an issue, there was often no resolution because it had to go through 5 or 6 different steps or people in order to find resolution. And
by the time it got to the decision makers, they didn't even know what the problem was at that point. So the resolution that they came up with was actually, in a lot of cases, not even relevant. And that's just kind of like the corporate world in a big machine. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work for a lot of things, because there are a lot of systems that are built that way and a lot of things that happen. But again, like what I see in our world and what I see as a country is that we're being out innovated.
Yeah.
And it's not because we don't have the resources. It's not because we don't have the super intelligent people, but it's because of the system that we work in that just slows everything down so much to the point where we are being out innovated in a lot of areas. And as a red-blooded American patriot, I was like, we need to do something about that. And so here we are.
Yeah. I think that pretty much covers our origins. We mentioned farming a little bit, so maybe we should touch on that some before we close. Touch on our family. We involve our kids in everything. So our kids actually come to work with us pretty frequently, usually 4 days a week. And if they're old enough, they get to help on the machine floor. They're learning that process. We've got them learning the video editing process. We've got them learning things skills that if they choose to stay and help us in business, that would be great. But we want them to be involved. We also involve them in the farming side. So a few years ago, Matt was raised on a farm. I was raised in the city. We're both from New Mexico. I guess I was raised in the city, but we had a small horse farm. We had horses, we had a garden, we had chickens. So I've always loved the agricultural lifestyle, but I was not quite as involved in it as you were. And obviously a couple of years ago, we took that leap to get back into it and bought a little 70-acre farm in the desert. So
we have irrigation.
We get our water from somewhere. So we bought this little farm and we have our kids involved in that. We grow hay and we have family that lives, we've like a generational family compound going, and we've got grandparents there that help us with the farm and with the family. And again, we're taking this holistic approach. I'm not sure how much we want to share on that, how much time we want to spend on that, but why? Why are we farming, and how does that tie into our business?
Well, we touched a little bit at the beginning about workforce development, right? And we were actually just at it was an economic development meeting locally here, and one of the old business guys just goes off on the stereotypical rant about kids these days, and how kids these days none of them want to work, they're all lazy, and they're not, and that could be an issue. I think that it's more of an issue of they're not exposed to anything, and so that's a big part of, like, with our children, and we welcome the opportunities to bring as many people from our community into this as well. is like they need to be exposed to things, and farming is a great way to expose them to where their food comes from, how hard it is to get that food sometimes, and the amount of work that has to go into that whole process. It's not just go down to the local grocery store and pick something off the shelf and buy it. And that's the world that a lot of people live in. That's the world that we live in. But again, just exposure to our children and everything from the farm to our business. And like Megan was saying, they're involved in everything from the ones that are old enough to be able to run machines. Like I've got our 13 and 14-year-old daughters can run a mill, and they can do video editing. And so there's so many aspects, especially as we get into the suppressor business, where we do have to do marketing. It's a consumer product, and there's every aspect of that. And so again, that holistic approach of exposing people, but exposing our youth to that. And that's something we're very passionate about. And we use more regenerative style farming. We don't necessarily use the whole chemical base. Let's kill as much as we can and then try to grow what we want. And so just building soils and again, just it's going a little bit back to how the system was designed to be. I think it's kind of arrogant of us to think that we know more than God, especially when it comes to nature and like how he set up the microbiome in the soil and all of these different plants. And like we've gone to single crop agriculture, which has its challenges, right? I mean, it's got its benefits in that we can generate tons and tons and tons of grain crop, which is a great thing. It feeds a lot of people. But also the downside is okay, like how do we implement that large commercial scale agriculture with this kind of more holistic approach, right, to looking at the microbiome and trying to work with all of these systems that are in the natural world than trying to fight them so much. And so it's all one of the things I like to say is life is about speeds and feeds. And if you're a machinist, you'll understand that. So like speed is how fast your spindle is turning with an end mill on it, and the feed is how fast it's moving horizontally through the material. And so like making a good part is all about speeds and feeds. You can adjust that and you can break tools and you can not cut material, or you can adjust that and you can cut through it really well. And so I think that applies to just life in general.
Yeah, I can't relate to that. I don't do any of the machining. I do all the other things.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. And we are, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of podcast episodes where we can get down to the nitty gritty details of all of those things, of agriculture, of what family, of faith, of the things that have driven us. And so we hope that you will give us your suggestions. What do you want to know about us? What do you want to hear from us? What type of questions you have about what we're doing, or how we're doing it, I guess. And I think that's about it. I think that we'll wrap things up and see you guys. We're going to release on probably a 2-week schedule, I think, is with all the other things going on. I don't think we can handle weekly, but.
Yeah, and not to worry, for all you gun nerds and suppressor nerds out there, we'll be doing lots of deep dives into our products, our process, and not just our products, but just everything in general and the physics of the system. And so Megan will try to keep me out of the weeds as much as possible on that. So
if my eyes glaze over, then we'll know. Then we'll know we're in the nerd weeds for sure.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a great week.
Thanks for listening.